Welcome back to another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. Christian Pedersen, Colton Toll. We are now in what the 7th-ish week of the high school season, maybe the 8th by the time you are watching this, but we are in the point where the statistical production and results has yielded us enough that power rankings of official nature are coming out. The way that this all works out during the regular season, the voters vote, the voters being the secretive cabal of sports writers and digital and media, old-timey personalities all coming together to email John Maffey their popularity picks or whatever the hell you want to argue on Twitter about. But none of that actually amounts to anything because none of that goes anywhere in terms of actual seeding. CIF has a formula that they use that has been hotly debated, but they use it, and it comes out after week 6 of the season with the official rankings. Some of this looks a little bit different than others. But before we get to any of that, let's get to a quick word from our sponsor, the U.S. Army. You get to the U.S. Army for their support. We go on now to, or for you watching this for the first of all your playoff videos, or however you're consuming this, we appreciate you guys watching it. Here is Division 1/Open Division. This one, remember, the top 4 teams here go on to play in the Open Division, and the rest are the Division 1 playoffs. So I think, Colton, for our sake, instead of us going maybe team by team here to say, well, we think that this is the rest of their season. We think that, let's say that we're going to probably assume that Carlsbad is in.
Yeah.
I want to say that probably it's safe to assume that Madison is in, but we can include them in a couple of different permutations of how this all goes. That could, they could drop down to 4. I think Helix, it's kind of out of their hands at this point because they always end with a pretty light schedule in terms of their strength of schedule because of league. So we're down to, we can talk maybe at length about what does Poway, are they an Open Division team? What is the rest of their season? Cathedral, Lincoln, LCC, how do they affect it or change? I don't think that Modern Day can mathematically make it up there because the rest of their season, the top 10 voting has looked very different than all of it. Like, what do you want to start with maybe though, in that first chunk of Madison, Helix, Poway?
Yeah, I think we could talk about just Carlsbad kind of was in the chalk pick since the start to lead the way. Obviously, you got 5-star quarterback Julian Saying, they got tight end Zach Marshall back, and they've honestly just been clicking. Obviously, they had that big win against Modern Day, at a section loss to Inglewood, beat El Camino, beat Mission Hills, beat Liberty. They start their league this week. Torrey Pines, San Marcos, Oceanside, LCC, finish Alta Vista. Carlsbad's doing their thing. This is a team we've been waiting for years. They've been with 2 straight Open championships, and they didn't win either, I believe, right? I got to think this is the year they finally put it together. The team that's always been there, but they got to finish at some point. This is a team that is a really good team, obviously on paper, but you got to finish games at some point. Projected them to be the number 1. They're still doing it. There's no reason they shouldn't. They should win out. It's a team you got to keep an eye on. You should get it done finally.
Moving down the list, you were caught by Poway. It's been a minute since we've seen them at their peak. And I think that they are a program that you like what their coach has done in terms of the message and the mood and setting the table for them being on this grind up. But I think we would have all been, or we have all been voting them somewhere in like 8th, then they're 6th. Like, to see them make that jump finally on paper of like, look, they're an Open Division team. That's pretty awesome. That it's a breath of fresh air, honestly, for some of the schools. Looking at what they've got left this season: Del Norte, Grossmont, Westview, Mount Carmel, RB. We talked about Mount Carmel in one of our videos being one of the teams in Division 2 to really look out for. Del Norte, okay, but that's none of those are a huge threat. to Poway. Colton, do you see Poway being able to run the table and hold on to this 4 spot?
They run, which is funny because that's what Poway does. They run the ball. They have big offensive linemen. I've said it before, running the ball, it's how you control the clock. You control time possession. If you have the ball, you're not giving up points. If you're not giving up points, you're not losing games. Obviously, strength of schedule doesn't play huge into their favor. They have to win that Montgomery game. That's going to be huge. If they lose that, I think they lose any chance to open division. So winning out, and if a couple other teams drop 1 or 2, they could sneak in as the last open team, and that would be a lot of fun because that's a team I don't think anyone talked about having a chance to open. A very good Division I team, but for them doing this year and able to sneak in, that would be so good for the program, and it'd be a lot of fun to watch them.
It would certainly be a breath of fresh air. Like I said, it'd be a nice change of pace to have that program step up and deliver some big moments. Let's look though at some league play that's going to have a big impact on all of this, and that is the Western League. Cathedral is going to have to play Madison and Lincoln. Lincoln and Cathedral are playing this week. Scripps Ranch is a threat to some of these. Saints is getting better every week. You know, there are parts of this that someone I feel like is bound to lose one surprising one just because it's league and it's tough and it's always yada yada yada, all the cliches. So starting with Lincoln playing Cathedral this Friday night. Lincoln then goes Saints, Scripps, Madison. Looking over at Madison. Madison goes with Muir Mesa tonight. That'll be a big one, but they should be in the driver's seat for that. Then they close out with Cathedral, Saints, Scripps, Lincoln. Cathedral, and I apologize if I'm being a little bit hard to follow on all this, but like what I'm saying is you're hearing the same names again. Cathedral, they like we said, they've got Lincoln this week. Then they go Madison, Saints, and Scripps. Of all of that, there are a bunch of different permutations where, like I said, I think that this could be league games always play close and whatnot, but I would be the most concerned if I'm a Cathedral Catholic fan out of all of that, because
they drop one of those. So they already have 3 losses on the year.
Yes. And all of that. So I think right now, even though Cathedral is in the 5 seed, they are looking to play spoiler more than anything and try and come away with, you know, if Cathedral does drop 1 to Lincoln and then beats Madison in a stunner or something like that, a 4-loss Cathedral beating like that could be just enough to lower Madison down to that 4 or nip them just out of like there could be a weird thing. So there's got to be a lot of eyes on that Western League as play goes down there. Cause like I said, Saints, they've picked up 2 wins now. They're not trending downwards. They're trending upwards. They could come away with if there's injuries this week, they could get a win next. Like, you just got to look out because that seems to be the nexus where all of this comes. Down below it, LCC, they are with me on they are with Poway this year for me on being like a revival team and coming out with something refreshing to do. They got a big test against El Camino this week, but past that, they got Oceanside, Valley Center, Carlsbad, Torrey. El Camino and Carlsbad on the rest of LCC's schedule. I guess you put anybody that has Carlsbad on their schedule as quote unquote in the mix, big game hunting, because you could like if somebody takes down Carlsbad, all of this tumbles. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
get those wins that moves you up.
Yeah. Granted, we are considering in all of these conversations that the de facto fixed variable is that the W that they get the W is that Carlsbad wins all of these games is probably our one standing that. But yeah, LCC, I don't think necessarily it's disrespect to say that they seem out of the conversation for open division, but if they can keep it close with Carlsbad and then win out everything else and some of this craziness happens, I think that they are the lowest team right now that I would give a shot at that 4 seed and making in. But most likely LCC to me is a driver's seat in the D1 playoffs. And that's where you kind of go from here down into this conversation is that what are you going to favor? Are you going to favor a 6-4 beat up, not necessarily perfect, but they jumped through the mathematical hoops Cathedral team? Or are you going to favor an 8-2 LCC that's actually playing some really, really good football, or a 6-4 El Camino that took some hard, like the Division one becomes its own separate video later. But out of all of this, I think that 7 we're kind of fixed. I don't see, unfortunately, Modern Day Catholic, Mission Hills, Torrey, or El Camino having the ability to get up into that open division conversation.
They're playing for seeding in the one division by now.
So that being said, once we get down to the Division one conversation, I want to hold off on that until we get a little bit closer, because it does impact it if Helix drops down or if Poway drops down. You kind of flip it.
If Madison loses to Lincoln Cathedral, they get dropped down. A lot of things could change.
Yeah, and so to do a D1 playoff one right now, it's disrespectful and foolish, because we're just going to look stupid no matter what we do. But I will say that looking at that 7 and beyond, you can pretty quickly get a picture of maybe who the 2 or 3 power players outside of that open division conversation are in terms of that, and who are maybe the 2 or 3 like underdogs that you'd want to pick early. That being said, though, we're going to update this every week, because now we have these every week. I believe it's every Tuesday that they come out on the CIF website. We'll include the information on how you can follow along with the updates, or you can just check back in here with SD Prep Insider probably not every week. Let's probably do this again in 2 weeks. So a week 8 look. Once we have another nice little statistical jump in the size. But yeah, we'll talk to you again in a couple weeks, sports fans. Go check out all our other videos. Appreciate it.